In all, we will be discussing 14 different types of flawed reasonings. Here is an exhaustive list of the types of flawed reasonings. It's a list of 14 different flaws. You don't have to remember these flaws. You may just want to pause the video and accustom yourself with the list. But remembering these terms is not needed at all. It is just about understanding the underlying concepts. Let's start with the first type of flawed reasoning, confusing cause with effect. This happens when an effect is confused with its cause, or the other way around. The cause is confused with its effect. Look at this example here. Please pause the video. Try figuring it out. The problem here is that Jack teaches mathematics is being considered the cause, and Jack has excellent numerical skills is being considered the effect. Whereas practically, imagine it is very much possible that Jack has excellent numerical skills is actually the cause, and that is why he teaches mathematics. Let's take one more example. A more basic example this time. Look at this. Every time I dream, I sleep. The flaw is very clear to find. It sounds as if dreaming is the cause and sleeping is the effect. That's not correct. The truth is that sleeping is the cause and dreaming is the effect. Let's take one more example, a more GMAT-like example this time. Please pause the video and figure it out. A similar flaw here. Not performing physically demanding activities is being considered the cause, and back pain is being considered the effect. Whereas in reality, it is very much possible that back pain is the cause because of which Hannah has not been performing physically demanding activities. Confusing cause with effect. Now let's take a real GMAT-like question. This is the argument. Here is the question stem. Step 1, read the question stem. Step 2, read the argument. And Step 3, have a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. A clear expectation here can be that the argument concludes that anger is the cause and neurological condition is the effect, whereas practically it is possible that neurological condition is the cause and anger is the effect. Look at the correct answer choice here. This answer choice reverses the cause-effect relationship, suggesting that neurological disorders are actually the cause and anger is the effect. So see, while this is technically a weakening question, to be able to solve this weakening question, you have to understand the flawed reasoning involved. Confusing cause with effect here. Next fallacy is confusing correlation with causation. This happens when a correlation or coincidence is confused with causation. Look at this example here. Please pause and figure it out. You will easily find that there is no cause-effect relationship here. This is simply a correlation or coincidence. One more example, a funny one this time. You will find that there is no cause-effect relationship involved. A GMAT-like example. You have an argument here, a question stem. Read the question stem. Read the argument. Please pause the video and figure out what you are expecting from the correct answer choice. The flaw in the argument is, quite clearly, that it fails to establish a causal connection between the two incidents involved. This is the correct answer choice. Next fallacy is assuming that bases are same. This happens when post-event difference in results is attributed to the event, without actually establishing that the pre-event results were similar. Look at this example here. Please pause and figure it out. What is the problem with this reasoning? The problem is that it has not been established that the two groups had a similar IQ before the experiment. Let's look at a GMAT-like example now. You have an argument here, followed by a question stem. Step 1, look at the question stem. Step 2, read the reasoning. And Step 3, have a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. So what piece of information would be necessary for evaluating the validity of the experiment's result? The piece of information needed is whether the bases were the same before the experiment. Look at this answer choice. It is on the same lines, whether the members of Group 1 and 2 were equally susceptible to smoking before the experiment. This is the correct answer choice. Next fallacy is drawing an incorrect analogy. This happens when comparison is made between dissimilar entities, or without establishing similarity between the entities involved. Look at this example here. Pause the video. Try figuring it out. What is the flaw in this reasoning here? The flaw is that before establishing that the same idea will work in the other country, no similarity has been shown between the two countries. Look at this example now. A correct analogy. Please pause the video and figure it out. Now you will see that this part of the argument from here to here is showing similarity between the two entities involved, and therefore this analogy is all right. Please understand, drawing an analogy is not a problem. What's important is to show that the entities involved are similar. Once similarity has been established, it's totally all right to compare the entities involved. Next fallacy is generalization. This happens when a claim is made on evidence that is just too small. Generalization is also sometimes referred to as extrapolation. However, technically extrapolation is numeric or mathematical in nature. So let's stick to the term generalization. Look at this example here. Please pause the video and figure it out. What is the problem here? The problem is that a conclusion for the entire group has been drawn on the basis of just one person. This is a classic case of generalization. Let's look at a GMAT-like example now. You have an argument followed by a question stem. Step 1, read the question stem. Step 2, read the argument. And Step 3, come up with a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. Please pause the video and figure it out. What is a serious flaw in the author's reasoning? The flaw, quite clearly, is that the conclusion is for any company struggling to make profits and grow, whereas the evidence presented is just one company. Look at the correct answer choice. A serious flaw in the author's reasoning is that he bases his conclusion on just one example, which may not be typical. This is the correct answer choice. Next fallacy is circular reasoning. This happens when a conclusion is assumed to be true in reaching the conclusion. Look at this example. Jack cannot lie because Jack always tells the truth. Circular reasoning. One more example. There isn't enough seating space on campus because there are too many students. Another very simple example. A is true because B is true. B is true because A is true. Let's look at a GMAT-like example. You have a dialogue followed by a question stem. Step 1 would be to read the question stem. Step 2 would be to read the argument, and Step 3 would be to come up with a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. Please pause the video and figure it out. First person says that Zoolander cannot win a fair election. Second person says that, as per reliable international observers, the country had a fair election, and Zoolander is winning. Then the first person responds by saying that, if this is true, international observers are unfair. So what is the biggest logical flaw in this response? The flaw is that Hamdi argues in circle, using an unsupported assertion to dismiss conflicting evidence. The buzz phrases here that make this answer choice compelling are argues in circle, unsupported assertion to dismiss conflicting evidence. This is as good an answer choice as it gets. Next flaw in reasoning is getting impressed by numbers. This happens when a data is assumed to be good or bad. Look at some examples here. Lily earns more than 90% citizens in the country. Now 90% sounds like a very high number, and therefore this data has been assumed to be good enough to conclude that Lily is rich, which may not be the case. One more example. Jack improved his score by 200%. Thus, Jack performed well. Once again, 200% sounds like a huge improvement, and the flaw in this reasoning is that 200% has been considered good enough to conclude that he performed well. Imagine if his score was 1 out of 100. After a 200% increment, it becomes 3 out of 100, which may not be a good performance. One more example. 98% of its flights are on time. Thus, Astor Airlines is among the most punctual airlines in the world. Once again, 98% sounds like a very high number. But whether 2% delay is low enough to be considered among the most punctual airlines, we don't know. One more example. 0.01% defect sounds like a very good ratio, but imagine it is about medicines. Whether 0.01% is low enough, we don't know. So whether the company deserves applaud, this cannot be established. Let's take a GMAT-like example now. You have an argument followed by a question stem. Step 1, read the question stem. Step 2, read the reasoning. And Step 3, have a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. Please pause the video and figure it out. The flaw is in this number 30%. This suddenly sounds like a low number, and therefore a negative conclusion has been drawn here. Imagine it's chess, and among grandmasters, a lot of games also go draw. So whether 30% wins is a low enough number, we don't know. So what is a logical flaw in this argument? It bases the conclusion on data for just one player, without considering similar data for other players. In other words, we do not know how good or bad 30% is. This is the correct answer choice. Next type of flaw in reasoning is missing the main point. This happens when the main point of an argument is missed by the responder. Let's take a GMAT-like example here. You have a dialogue followed by the question stem. Step 1, read the question stem. Step 2, read the argument. And Step 3, come up with a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. Please pause the video and figure it out. See, Amir's concern is that the soccer team is unlikely to win the tournament, whereas Brenda's response is around media coverage, goodwill, and commercial success. She fails to address Amir's main concern, or she misses the main point in Amir's argument. Look at the correct answer choice here. Brenda's response fails to respond to Amir's primary concern. This is the correct answer choice. Next fallacy is comparing percentage with absolute numbers. This happens when percentage or proportion is compared with absolute data. Look at this example here. Jack improved his score by 200%. Thus, he performed well. We have taken this example earlier. What if his score was 1 out of 100? After a 200% increase, it becomes a 3 out of 100, which may not be a good performance. Let's take a GMAT-like example. Now here is an argument followed by a question stem. Read the question stem. Read the argument, and come up with a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. Please pause the video and figure it out. So what we know is that the GNP of Albaro is 95, let us say, and Kavi's is 100. Then this is supposed to grow by 12%, and this is supposed to grow by 4%. So this would be 104, and this would be something around 106 to 107. Don't waste your time in figuring out the exact value. The point is that this is going to be greater than 104. So which of the following can properly be inferred? Look at this answer choice here. Now we know that the GNP of Albaro is going to be higher than that of Kavi. We don't know the population of A and C. So whether the per capita income is going to be higher, we don't know. This answer choice is not correct. It commits the mistake of comparing percentage with absolute numbers. One more answer choice here. This answer choice compares GNP, the total GNP of the two countries. And yes, this can be established that the GNP of A is going to be greater than the GNP of C. This answer choice is all right. Next fallacy is comparing one with oneself. This happens when a conclusion is drawn based on an entity's comparison with oneself. Look at this example here. Once again, the same example. Jack has improved his score on the basis of his own earlier score. If his score was 1 out of 100, after the 200% increase, it becomes 3 out of 100, which may not be a good performance. Look at a GMAT-like example now. Read the question stem, read the argument, and come up with a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. Please pause the video and figure it out. The flaw here is that this 100% growth has happened in the media vertical, and this award is across business verticals. Nothing has been said about other verticals. This 100% growth is on the unit's own performance. Therefore, the flaw in this argument is that the conclusion has been reached on the basis of comparison of media verticals' sales with itself rather than with sales of other business verticals. Therefore, an across business verticals award for the media vertical would be hasty. This is the correct answer choice. Next fallacy is confusing necessity with sufficiency. This happens when a necessary condition is confused with being a sufficient condition. Look at this statement here. All humans need oxygen to survive. Oxygen is necessary, but we cannot say that oxygen is all that the humans need to survive. Oxygen is necessary, but not sufficient. Drawing such an inference would be confusing necessity with sufficiency. Such an inference would, of course, be incorrect. Let's take a GMAT-like example. Read the question stem, read the argument, and come up with a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. Please pause the video and figure it out. Look at this answer choice. Do you think this is correct? No. This answer choice suffers from the problem of confusing a necessary condition with a sufficient condition. This answer choice is incorrect. Look at one more answer choice here. Yes, such an inference can be drawn. However, what we want to teach you through this slide is better explained through this incorrect answer choice here. This commits the mistake of confusing necessity with sufficiency. Next fallacy: confusing sufficiency with necessity. This happens when a sufficient condition is confused with being a necessary condition. Look at this statement here. All Olympic athletes maintain healthy body mass index. Can we draw this inference? No, we cannot. Being an Olympic athlete is sufficient for concluding that the person maintains healthy body mass index, but it is not necessary. Drawing such an inference would be committing the error of confusing sufficiency with necessity. Look at one more example here. Can this be inferred? No. Maintaining healthy body mass index is something that Olympic athletes do, but it is not that only Olympic athletes do so. This inference is also incorrect. Let's look at a GMAT-like example now. Step 1. Read the question stem. Step 2. Read the argument. And Step 3. Come up with a broad expectation from the correct answer choice. Please pause the video and figure it out. The flaw is that this conclusion has been reached on the basis of this information here, utilizes all of this to realize all of this. But whether anything that utilizes all of this and realizes all of this is a branch of philosophical thought has not been established. This has been assumed, and that is the flaw in this argument. This is the correct answer choice. Next fallacy is confusing possibility with necessity. This happens when a possible condition is confused with a necessary condition. Look at this statement here. Can this be inferred from the given statement? Look at this graphically. Olympic athletes maintain healthy BMI, but there are other people who maintain healthy BMI but are not Olympic athletes. So this is a subset of a superset here. Jack may belong to this set here, and he may belong to this set here. So that Jack is an Olympic athlete is a possibility, not a necessity. Therefore, this inference cannot be drawn. I have a huge set for you here. Here is an argument followed by a question stem and a bunch of statements for you. Good 7 statements. Please pause the video and put a check mark if you think that the statement must be true. Otherwise, put a cross mark. This is a set that shows that Mike is convinced, and this second set here represents public is convinced. At the overlap here is where Mike wins. He has to be convinced to contest, and then public has to be convinced for him to win. Let's give these areas some names. Let's call this area A, which represents Mike is convinced but public is not convinced. Let's call this area B, which represents public is convinced but Mike is not convinced. Let's call this area C, which represents Mike is convinced and public is convinced. And let's call this area D, which represents neither Mike is convinced nor public is convinced. In this case, remember, Mike would not contest the election. So, with this groundwork, let's look at the statements here. If Mike is a senator today, that means we are talking about area C, he was convinced about all of this. And yes, this condition must be true. In second case, Mike is not a senator. So we are talking about areas A, B, or D. Any of these may be true. He was not convinced. So yes, in cases B and D, this can be said. But in the case A, this cannot be said. See, the question is, which of the following must be true? In case of A, this would not apply. Therefore, answer choice B is not going to be correct. Look at answer choice C here. If Mike is a senator today, that means there is only one area that we need to consider. That's area C. Public majority was convinced. This can be established because in the area C, public majority is definitely convinced. Choice D. If Mike is not a senator, that means A, B, or D, and public majority was not convinced, applies to only A and D. In case of B, this will not apply. Answer choice D confuses possibility with necessity. Look at this one. If Mike contested the elections, this means A or C, public majority was convinced, applies only to C but not to A. So this answer choice also suffers from the error of confusing possibility with necessity. Look at the next statement here. If Mike did not contest, that means the areas we must consider are B and D. Public majority was not convinced. Applies only to D, not to B. So once again, this answer choice as well suffers from the problem of confusing possibility with necessity. Look at this one. If Mike contested the elections, this means A or C, he was convinced that his image of playing negative characters would not affect. Yes, if he contested, he was convinced. This is what this part of the paragraph says. So yes, this one must be true. Next fallacy is confusing between subsets and supersets. This happens when a subset is confused with its superset. Look at this statement. Here is a question stem followed by a bunch of statements. Please pause the video and put a check or cross mark against each statement, depending on whether you find each a must-be true statement. Imagine this set represents Olympic athletes. The superset here represents people with healthy BMI. Olympic athletes form a subset of the superset of all people having healthy BMI. So this area, A, represents people who do not maintain a healthy BMI, and therefore are also not Olympic athletes. This area, B, represents people who maintain healthy BMI but are not Olympic athletes. And this area, C, represents Olympic athletes, which of course also maintain healthy BMI. With this groundwork, let's look at each of these statements. Anybody who maintains healthy body mass index, this represents B or C, is an Olympic athlete. This cannot be said. For C, yes. For B, no. So this is not a must-be-true statement. Crossmark. Look at the second statement here. Only Olympic athletes maintain healthy body mass index. No, this is not true. You have B here. So a crossmark again. Look at the third statement. Anybody who does not maintain a healthy body mass index. This means A, and yes, nobody in A is an Olympic athlete. Therefore, yes, this must be true. Look at the fourth statement here. Jack is an Olympic athlete. That means he belongs to category C. He maintains healthy body mass index. Yes, even this is a must-be-true statement. Look at the next statement. Lily is not an Olympic athlete. That means she belongs to A or B. Lily does not maintain healthy body mass index. Maybe. In case of A, the answer is yes. In case of B, the answer is no. So this is not a must-be-true statement. Crossmark. Look at the last one here. Does not maintain a healthy body mass index. That means A, and if it is an A, not an Olympic athlete, this must be true. So yes, a check mark. If you got all 6 correct, good job. So this was the concept, friends. Thanks for watching.